As your counselor, you can talk to me about anything, okay? I understand you want to talk about sex.
My name's Adam Cook, and I'm going down to South Park to have myself a time with Chris White.
Hello.
I'm actually not going anywhere, mate, but you've been to Ubisoft and you've played 3.5 goddamn hours of motherfucking South Park, and I'm getting those swears out there early because, quite frankly, that's South Park.
Fuck
What
yeah.
on earth is this? I mean, this game feels like it's been coming for a very long time. Talk to us, because I've been scrubbing through the footage that you captured for this video, and I noticed that the battle system looks different. It doesn't look as simplified. It looks like there's some sort of grid you can move around on.
Yeah, so you've got a grid. I mean, things like XCOM and Banner Saga, there's always a grid as such, and you get to move around it to certain points. You know, different characters can move certain spaces and that. So you do get to move around. You've got a varied range of attacks. So as the new kid, you've got an attack where you'll strike the person in the square in front of you. You got another strike that will you kind of charge, so you can charge a few spaces and knock a few people in front of you. You can also, if you hurt the person in front of you and he stood in front of someone else, it'll cause both of them to kind of lose damage. Other characters will be able to heal. They'll also be able to hurt multiple enemies in one go. It all depends on the character and the class and how you use them and how you kind of, how you go into a battle. And obviously different enemies have different abilities. It's hard talking about this game like a legit video game because it's South Park and it's funny and it's talking about cocks, balls and all that. But it's a really smart, it's a really clever game. The devs have nailed it, I think, with the combat. And if you think it's just a rip off of these kind of genres, and it really isn't. They've put a lot of hard work into making this game feel like a legit turn-based strategy RPG.
I must admit, the thing I loved about the first, not the first South Park game, but the last one, I suppose, the RPG one, the one this is a sequel to, essentially, Stick of Truth. It did feel like just a really good South Park sort of homage. Like, it felt like it was a lot of callbacks to episodes that people have in their minds that they love them. And I will say, and you can confirm, but I think based on 3 to 4 hours of it, I don't think anything I've seen so far of this is going to change you into a South Park fan. You either are up for more of this or you're not.
Oh yeah, I think your threshold for what is and what isn't appropriate in comedy is all designed on. If you're a South Park fan, you're gonna love it. I don't think you can warm to it if you're not. I think there is humour here that people may find grotesque and rude and vulgar and too far, but I don't think that they've ever kind of it's always a purpose to it. It never kind of makes fun of what it's making fun of. It's more of how people perceive the kind of things they make fun of, like racism and disability. They're not making fun of the actual disability or certain races. It's about how people react to it, and I think they make people feel uncomfortable. And they are incredibly talented guys to keep the show going for so long and to keep it still funny. And obviously they've had a hand in this game. And
do we know how much? I know, because obviously I think were there representatives from the game there? I can't remember. I'm just intrigued as to how much Matt and Trey wrote of it or didn't.
I've got a feeling they wrote. I'm sure they wrote it, like the story and the broad
strokes, right?
Yeah, and it's clear. The characters are spot on. They're exactly how you remember them, and they're all kind of. There's a lot of characters in there from the show that you're going to know.
Because what I noticed, Chris, I noticed from the footage again was that whereas the last game, it did feel very much like callbacks. A lot of the jokes were cool. There was some new stuff, but there was a lot of callbacks. I feel like most of those callbacks were to much earlier South Park.
Yeah.
Whereas I noticed in this video that there's Shitty Par Town or Shitty Par Town, how you say it, which is a far more modern in the last couple of years thing that's been in this series.
Yeah.
Obviously, the whole thing of Coon and Friends isn't particularly new. It's been around for a couple of years. I think they have become slightly more gross out comedy. I still like it, but a lot of the like. But then even saying that in Stick of Truth, there was like some sort of aborted Nazi fetus boss, wasn't there? You know, it's
yeah,
I don't. It feels like if you're going into this game not expecting that, I wonder if you're just going in there trying to get an article out of it. Do you know what I mean? Like it.
I feel that. Yeah, no, completely. And I feel that if people review this and use like say it's too offensive or whatnot, I think that's a bit unfair because it's South Park. You know what you're getting. If you watch the show,
you do. You
know exactly what you're getting, and it's crude. Yeah, it's crude. It's vulgar at times, but it's fucking it's funny. Like,
I mean, it either is or isn't. Do you know what I mean?
I think, you're either put off by it or you're not. And I just think there are some like they incorporate like you can go into houses and you can shit in toilets, like people's toilets,
which is a real life thing.
You get stuff for doing that, but you have to kind of be able to follow the order correctly. So you have to complete.
And they turn shitting into a rhythm game.
You have to squeeze, shake, force it out by pressing different buttons and using certain combinations at certain times. If you don't, you can't have your shit. You can't win. Every time it finishes off with you pinching the life essentially and getting that last drop out. And you get certain each toilet's got a star difficulty. There's kind of portaloos. You can go into like Kyle's house. You could go into all these different houses essentially and have a shit.
Yep.
And that's just like small little mini games. But then there's just like again in the 3.5, 4 hours I actually played, I just wandered around South Park. I went and saw everything. It's great. You can walk into the cinema theatre.
But that's what I want to ask you about, right? Because in the first game you kind of had the freedom of South Park. Now, like I'm thinking of Yakuza 0 and Yakuza Kiwami in how that Yakuza 0 was a remake. This game that created this place, and Yakuza Kiwami was a remake in the same engine, and you could. It was the same place essentially. How is it not? How do they make it so that you don't feel like you're just walking around the same South Park again? And
I think there's a lot more. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot more interaction. I think you can go into. I pretty much went into every building. You can go into pretty much every house. Like I went into a lot of different houses, and the families were there watching TV. And on a lot of different TVs, they were watching a lot of different stuff. And like someone was watching like Honey Boo Boo and the child thing.
Yeah, I remember.
And they were ripping the shit out of it. Like it was amazing. I just walked around the house just to listen to them watching the TV and what was being said because it was dead funny. Then there's other houses doing other stuff and whatnot, and there's there are moments that I can't really talk about, but you'll get to see them when you play where familiar. Oh, it's just houses.
If you can't. Is it still loot driven? Is there still a lot of loot?
There's a lot of loot, a lot of collectibles, a lot of items to help craft. One of the big things is crafting. You can craft your own food. You can craft your own costumes, that kind of thing. The higher your things you've crafted, the better your level.
Sure.
You get to go to Morgan Freeman's taco burrito bar, and he'll tell you all about it. Obviously. And you can find loads of items and loads of consumables and stuff that. Yeah, there's just a lot to it.
Well, here's a question to end on then that, it's a strange thing to do because you can only answer for yourself. You can't tell other people what what they'll find funny. But to you, what you've played so far, is it something you can't wait to play more of, and is it funny?
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more. I think the humour exists mainly in the cutscenes, obviously, and there are bits when you're playing that you'll find like the title of a book, which is ridiculously. It's like I can't even say 'cause it's pretty grim, but there are things that you'll find and you do laugh to yourself. But it's in the cutscenes where you listened to Cartman talk about stuff, or the Mr. Mackey bit, which is brilliant. These characters that you love in the show are in it here, and their dialogue is just as snappy as it is in the show. So I think that the more cutscenes there are, the more you'll laugh. But there are bits in the gameplay which are funny. But in terms of a game, like I'm looking forward to play more of the battle system and see how it progresses. And, it kind of ended at a point where there's a definite kind of improvement and a different change to the gameplay, where it kind of becomes a bit more trickier and a bit harder, where you have to really kind of incorporate the different characters that you've enlisted along the way. So I'm looking forward to playing more.
Okie dokie. Well, to read more of Chris's thoughts on South Park: The Fractured But Whole, you can go to godisageek.com. You can follow him at FirstAvenger83 on Twitter to ask him any questions about the game he can answer, because he's played a lot, but there's some stuff he can't talk about, basically. If you like what we do, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you click the thumbs up. Also, there's a little bell icon that you can click that notifies you every time we put a new video live, and actually that really helps us if you click that. If you click that button to get that notification, that really helps, as does subscribing. And if you really like us, you can go to patreon.com/GodIsAGeek and support us for $1 a month, and you'll get, extra stuff there, exclusive stuff, early stuff, huh? Early? You like early stuff before anyone else? Yeah. Voices run out of extra. Bye, Chris. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.